we're going to go over the new digitizing tool that we've introduced into GVERSE GeoGraphix. So if any of you remember previously working with GeoGraphix, we had a digitizing tool built into Petrophysics. This one's going to be built directly into depth registration. You may also remember previously we had done another webinar already on digitizing not too long ago. So now that one's going to be a bit outdated, as we're going to kind of go through what exactly happens within depth registration versus what happens within Petrophysics. You'll see that it's going to be a lot easier to work with. No more having to create curve sets ahead of time and then clipping images and setting scales and all these other preliminary steps you kind of have to do before you can even begin digitizing. This eliminates a lot of that clutter. So you'll be seeing that improved process as we go through here. And one of the key features, again, kind of going back to that last webinar, several of you had questions about, how do we handle curve wrapping? Well, the last tool didn't really handle it, at least not very well. Again, a lot of extra steps to kind of get to the point where you could start to do that curve wrapping, and it wasn't very clean. So now the curve wrapping is going to be a lot easier to deal with. So previously you had some questions on that and they weren't really addressed. That's kind of why. So we'll definitely address that and kind of go over that in this session. So I think without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up depth registration. So again, people that have been working with GeoGraphix before, this is our depth registration tool. Not too much changed on that end, except now in this lower left-hand corner, you'll see this new dialog box appear here. So again, this is a new feature added in 2022.1. And this is the log digitization kind of toolbox here. So if I got this well open here, I got a simple lateral log, got a gamma ray curve here, and some resistivity curves over here. I'm essentially just going to kind of show just kind of a quick look at digitizing a little section of this gamma ray here in the first track. You'll see there's a couple places here, a little small one here, just about 10,560 feet here or so. And another one about 10,610, 20 or so. So there's kind of two spikes here where the curve is wrapping around as we hit the edge of the scale here on the right side. So we'll see kind of the curve wrapping and how that's going to be handled here. So first things first, I want to go ahead and get this set up and ready for doing the depth registration. So again, kind of going back to the Petrophysics, at this point we would have to create a curve set from scratch before I could even start to add the curve in there to be drawn. Not so much here. I basically just in this log digitization tool, I just say on. It turns on on that feature. If you click on that and you notice it's coming up with a message, first thing you want to kind of check on is in your registered image section. Images have to be registered before you can start digitizing them. Make sure you have a section selected. So I've got my lateral log large section selected here. It's going from 8,800 feet to 12,890. So that's highlighted. And now I can come through here. What I want to do now is set a left scale and a right scale for the track that I'm going to try and digitize on. So I'm focusing on the gamma ray curve here. So I'm just going to see the cursor will look like a line with the indent pointing in. That's going to be my left edge of the scale. So I'm going to get right on the edge of the image there on that black line. And I'll click and I'll see there's a green line drawn here, and it's going to ask what is the scale value on that left edge. So in this case, that is a value of 0. Okay. Now my cursor will change here to a line with an indent pointing the other direction. So what is the kind of the scale edge of the track here? So I'm going to put mine kind of right at where the these lines kind of stop. You'll see that there's another black line kind of indicating where that scale is, but just because of what the image is doing here, where it's kind of poking out, and I think that's the same kind of poking out that I'm seeing up here, I'm going to kind of scale it off here a little bit to the edge of those lines going across. So I'll come in a little bit here and click there. Again, I'll see another green line up here where I placed that line. and I'll say that is 150. So my gamma ray scale here is going to be 0 to 150. Okay, so I've got those set. If you've created these lines and you realize, oh, I made a mistake, that was actually supposed to be a scale of 0 to 200 or some other kind of scale change there. In the range box, I'll see over here in my log digitization section, I can come back in here and adjust those scales. So I did 0 to 150. I can change those here if need be. If I want to repick any of those lines, I can click on either the set left edge or set right edge and click somewhere else in my log to repick those and put them in different places without having to start the entire thing over. So you'll have those buttons there. All right, so scale's been set. Don't need to change anything there. I think I saw that turned on. Yep, click it off there. Now I'm ready to go ahead and start to actually kind of digitize this. Now I don't necessarily need to set a curve name yet. That'll be kind of towards the end once I'm ready to save it. You'll see down here at the bottom is the save section. So you'll see there's a curve set. In this case, this is a well that already has some curve data. So I'll see import 1 is filled out there, but I can also create a new curve set. Again, I'll kind of worry about this once I get ready to save it, but for right now, I just want to point out where that is. So curve set, where you can choose where this curve is going to be saved to. Curve name, what curve is it going to be, and then what are the units, and then your save button. Okay, so there are 2 draw methods for creating your curve that you want to do here. So again, kind of go back to Petrophysics, you had your basically your the tool that was in there. I'm drawing a blank on the name of it right now, and essentially you could just either click to add points, or you could just drag to add points. It's all kind of built into that one tool. Here we just have the 2 modes. Polyline pick, which is you're clicking to add actual points, and then the drag pick, where you just click and drag to kind of trace over the log that you want to digitize there. So I'm going to start first with the drag pick, and I'll show how I can come back and edit it using the polyline pick to add any other points that I might need where the drag picking didn't put a node someplace and it didn't pick up any detail there. So we'll turn on drag pick mode. And now I'm just going to come through here and trace the gamma ray curve. Like I said, I'm going to kind of just do this 100-foot section here from about 10,550 to 10,650. And we'll just trace that gamma ray there kind of as best I can. Like I said, there'll be some points in here where it's not necessarily going to pick up everything because it's dropping a node every X amount of points here. I'm gonna come up here to the edge or kind of get as close as I'll put another point in there in just a little bit. And I'm gonna continue on. I'm not gonna do the wrapping yet. I can. There's the wrap tool right here, right next to your picking method. Or right now I'm at 0 to 150. If I click the arrow, I'll go from the next scale, 150 to 300 and so on. But I'm gonna come back and do that later, just kind of show that I can kind of do that at any time. And I'm gonna pick this up on the other edge. And again, just kind of trace this across here. And I'm not worrying too much about it being perfect. Like I said, I can come back and fix that. So right now we're just kind of tracing along, adding some nodes. Again, come up here to the edge and pick it up on the other side. And I'll come back for the wrap in a second. And just kind of continue my way across here. Just for demo purposes, this will be kind of more good enough. That's not too bad, actually. And so there, I've essentially now digitized that that curve. Now, let's go back and kind of pick up the jump that I did here across that gap. So again, we have this tiny little part poking out here. So I'm going to adjust my wrap. Again, I'm at 0 to 150 right now. I'm just going to click the arrow right, and it jumps it up 150 to 300 automatically. Just picks up, doubles your scale, whatever it was, kind of goes from there. And so as I do that, it's also going to, so all this right here that I've been digitizing is these red dots. What I'm going to see over here when I do the wrap, these are going to be purple. They're going to be a different color to indicate that that is where the wrap is occurring. And so I'll kind of pick up some of those points there, about right there. And then I'll come over here and grab this as well. And so I'll just kind of trace over this. You'll notice kind of as I do that, previously I was having that line kind of jump across here. And it's overridden that essentially and kind of put these in here. Also doing that kind of where I clicked, I probably got a little bit too far up depth than I wanted. So it's kind of erased that one point at the edge here. So I can go back and kind of tweak that a little bit, and we'll fine tune some of those points to make sure that I'm getting those exactly where I need them to be. But essentially I've gone through there and I've corrected that curve wrapping. So now I can go back and I'm also going to do just some polyline picking to adjust and fix some of these more fine-tuned points. Again, making sure I go back to my original scale, 0 to 150 to do that. And so I'm going to add some points, and you'll see it's left some of those points in there and added some new points in between. If I don't really like the way that it's kind of doing that fine tuning, like I said, it doesn't always do that. Sometimes I can add these points in here and they line up pretty great. I also have an erase tool, so I can just come through here and say, okay, let me just erase this whole section here in the middle. That was probably a little bit too much. And I can go through here now and use the polyline pick to line that up a little bit better. And let me come down here and grab some of these. Again, I'll make sure I get this. Yeah, so I didn't erase any of these points over here. So sometimes you might have to fine tune a little bit and just be very careful kind of along where you're picking some of those points to make sure that they line up exactly where you need them to, especially when you get into the wrapping, as again, this depth is essentially overriding whatever that depth was. But got that to the edge. I'm just gonna do a couple more picks down here. So and again, going back to the previous Petrophysics method, as you went back and kind of readjusted and repicked certain areas, essentially wherever you added that point, it would then delete everything down depth. So if I added a point here, everything from that point that I added to basically the last point would be deleted, and I have to go back and repick the entire thing if I wanted to go back and fix anything. Not the case anymore. I can go through now and fine pick and adjust these smaller sections without it erasing everything else in between those points. So again, improvement on the tool there. So yeah, that's the log section that I want to digitize. Very quick, very easy to go through and kind of do that. Now I want to go ahead and save that information. So this is going to go out to that import one curve set, just the raw data that I imported into this well. It's actually already got a gamma ray curve, so I don't necessarily want to go through here and overwrite it for that curve set. So let's go ahead and create a new curve set. We're going to call this just digitized. If I can spell, there we go, digitized. And then you have your two options there, whether this is kind of an imported set or a computed set. I'm going to say this is computed. And then what is your step value here? And I'm just going to say it's a 1 foot step. Then I'll come here into the curve name. Now this is the gamma ray curve. I'm just going to indicate that this is one that I've digitized in case I want to compare it to the raw gamma ray that's already been imported into this well. I could go through and call it gamma ray, but I would like to kind of distinguish the two if I want to compare what's going on there, without kind of any fear of anything getting overwritten there. So I'm going to call it GR digit. Units here are going to be API. And then I'm going to go ahead and save that. And we'll see that GR digit curve with the unit API was successfully saved to the curve set digitized. Click OK. Now, if I jump over to Petrophysics, and here's that same well. Let me go ahead and just refresh to make sure everything's updated. I'm going to go over to my Curves tab and check the Edit Curve Data. And I will now see that in my edit curve data, the list of curve sets that I have, there's import one, and then there's the digitized curve set that I just created. You'll see it gives a little source here indicating that it was created during log digitization. It gives me a date modified, and then the start and stop, that depth that I covered. So 10,550, 10,650, 1 foot step. It was a computed set. If I click on curves and I go to that digitized curve set, there is GR digit. Okay. And so just to switch, see what that curve looks like. I'll go ahead and switch to my digitized curve set as my field data and apply that. Click OK. And I'll see that that data kind of just disappear here. And I'll see that my scale, my depth interval is changed here. I don't see that information I saw before. I'm just looking at 10,550 down to 10,650. But I also noticed that my gamma ray is not displaying. And again, that's just because I've changed it to that GR digit instead of GR. So I'll just go in here to the curves. I'm going to change my gamma ray here to gamma ray digit and make sure that my scale is adjusted 0 to 150. And if I go to my attributes, I want to make sure that I get my curve back up here. And we should be good there. Oh, I don't think I put the right one. I think it's single right. There we go. Yeah, because it goes to the right edge. All right. And so there is my digitized gamma ray curve with my wrapped curve sections appearing there. And so I can look at that, say, yep, looks okay. Like I said, it's, it may not be perfect in certain areas. I might want to go back in there and fine tune some of these points here to get them to line up a little bit better. But I can say, for the purposes of what we're kind of showing here, should be pretty good there. Now, a couple other things just to kind of point out within that log digitization. You have undo buttons here as well. So whatever your last edit was, whether it be adding additional points, anything else like that. If you do any kind of click drag, whenever you're clicking and dragging, that whole drag section that you do, that is one edit. So if you drag the entire thing and you undo the edit, pretty much removes the entire curve there. So you can go through there and start to, you can see I'm removing points along the curve here that I was doing that fine tuning on. And I just keep going through, cycle through all the way. I can undo all my edits and I can see that it kind of removes everything. Be like, oh, actually it was good the way it was. Redo all those edits. So you have a lot of undo and redo options there. If you've realized that you've messed something up somewhere, don't worry, you don't have to start all over from scratch. There are some undo and redo, as well as, like I said, going back and digitizing and patching some of those tools in there. Oh, that was what it was. Data patch tool in Petrophysics. That's what it was. Name I forgot before. But yeah, so there you go. That is the digitization feature there within the depth registration tool. Much more fine-tuned, much easier to run than what it was within GVERSE Petrophysics. Again, less setup that you have to do ahead of time, as well as just easier going through there and tracing and creating kind of some of those curves there. So hope you guys like the look at the tool there, and some next steps.